Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sister. It's news that's nightly about the Redskins. Welcome to the Redskins Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, basically, want to talk about the recap of the 34-17 loss at FedEx Field versus the New York Jets. Really disappointing outcome. I know a lot of you had a nice laugh at my expense on my behalf based off the R3 video that I did, and I went back and watched, and I got a little fired up, and only because, and someone in the comment section, I think, put it very eloquently, I built myself up all week long thinking that the Redskins could get a win. And I wanted to see Haskins' first start at FedEx Field go well. And he was going to have family members there. And I wanted to see the confidence and all of those things kind of translate onto the field. I wanted to see this team perform better than they did. And I had a rude awakening. And nothing like cold water on your face first thing in the morning to wake your dumb ass up. And that's what happened to me. Because for some reason, I ignored the fact that we were 1-8 going into the game. For some reason, I ignored the fact that the Jets are actually better than us. For some reason, I ignored the fact that we're just not very good, period. And thought that we were going to somehow stop the Jets from scoring. And, oh, by the way, end the streak of not scoring points earlier in the game, like, say, first quarter, second quarter, maybe first half at some point. Didn't think it would take literally until the fourth quarter to get some points on the board from a touchdown perspective, but whatever. I fell into the trap, man. And I always guard against falling into the trap, and I fell into the trap like a dummy. So, yeah, that kind of happened yesterday. It did, and I'm not apologetic. I'm not ashamed of it. You know, it is what it is. Bottom line is, I went back and watched the game again because I was like, maybe I'm a little too hard on some of these guys. And then, you know what's always therapy for me too? I talk about coming on to these different platforms that I have, whether it's the podcast or it's this show or it's the R3 or any of the different various shows, platforms that I have, and I talk about how that's therapy for me. Well, you know what else is therapy for me as well? So it makes me feel like I'm not going insane, okay? It keeps me grounded. It's watching other teams. Some of you don't do that. And so you're in this delusional state of mind that this team is talented. If you think this team is actually really talented, then go watch other teams that actually are. And then you will put everything in proper perspective. And so that's what I've been doing all season long. I do it every year. I watch every game. And so I know what's out there. I know what talent is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to perform week in and week out. And I'm really disappointed at the fact that we continue to spill out this narrative and we continue to push this false narrative. I believe that it's very false at this point. You don't have to agree with me. We can all have our disagreements. And again, that's why we're family. Family don't always agree on everything. All right. We can agree to disagree. I'm just telling you, this is not a very talented football team. And we can talk about coaching and the lack thereof. And yes, that definitely has a part in why we're not as good on the football field and why the product isn't as good and why it doesn't necessarily match up with some of the players that we do have on this roster. Yes, you're right. If some of these guys played for other teams in different schemes, they probably would flourish. They probably would play better. I will grant you that. But there's still something to be said about just beating the man in front of you's ass. Just kicking one-on-one. And I always say this during draft time. You know, I'm not going to beat the guy up that plays Division 3. You know, I'm not going to beat the guy up that plays Division 2. You know, I'm not going to beat those guys up. You know why? Because you can't worry about those circumstances. All I can ask you to do is dominate the competition. Beat the hell out of the guy in front of you. And if you do that well enough for long enough, people will come. They will recognize how good you are, and you will get an opportunity to play at the next level. Same thing in the NFL. All right? It's no different than going up against guys in the SEC if you're one of these Bama boys and whooping their ass week in, week out. All right, now the competition is a level playing field. All right, now all of a sudden, that guard at Ole Miss that you're able to dominate, that guard at Townsend that you're able to just thrash and throw into the backfield, Now these are actual real NFL caliber guards. So now you're playing against guys that are the caliber of the guys you would see at, say, a Georgia or an Ohio State or a Clemson. You're not going up against that poor South Carolina guard that has no chance of making it to the NFL. Or you're not going up against some random Joe Schmo at Southwest Missouri State. Okay? Now the playing field has been leveled, and I want to see you dominate. And I got a chance to go watch all these games out there. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff in greater detail a bit later on in the show. But I was able to go watch the Vikings play against the Denver Broncos, for instance. And I watched Shelby Harris. Yes, Shelby Harris. Do you know who that is? No, you don't. And you have no reason to know who he is, even though he's a pretty damn good football player for the Denver Broncos on their defensive line. You know how many sacks he had against the Minnesota Vikings? The same team that we played earlier in the season, and we didn't get any sacks on Kirk Cousins. As a matter of fact, the man almost completed 100% of his passes on a Thursday night versus us a few weeks ago. You know how many sacks Shelby Harris had? 3 sacks against Kirk Cousins. All right, 3 of them. All right, that's how you impact the game. You know what? I had a chance to watch Fletcher Cox, all right, against the New England Patriots. A same Patriots team that we played that we weren't really able to stop in the second half from running the football down our throats. First half, 3-man rushes. We're getting pressure. Matt Ioannidis getting all the pressure he wants. We're tearing them up. Second half, they decided, you know what? Why are we throwing all the time? How about we run the football? And they ran it right down our damn throats. You know what I watched Fletcher Cox do yesterday? Blow shit up. All right? Didn't necessarily make the play, but he made the play. Okay? I watched Aaron Donald. It was a joy. It was a pleasure to watch him on Sunday night, even though it was a boring-ass game. You know what I watched Aaron Donald do time after time, double team after double team? Wreck shop. Blow shit up. That's what the elite defensive tackles do. That's what good defensive tackles do, like Shelby Harris out in Minnesota. That's what you do. You wreck shop and you blow shit up. All right? Against the same Bears team that we played earlier in the season that we didn't do shit against. So don't tell me that we have talent along our defensive line and that Daron Payne had 5 tackles and I saw him run a guy out of bounds. Really? That's what we giving brownie points for? Running a guy out of bounds? Yeah, I saw that same hit on the sidelines where he busted up the dude and knocked him out of bounds after he got a first down. Hey, look, I've never said Daron Payne nor Jonathan Allen don't hustle. That's what those guys do. All right? And I greatly appreciate that because hustle isn't a skill. It isn't something that needs to be taught. Everybody can hustle. So you don't get extra points for that. Good for them for doing what they're supposed to do, which is hustle. I want to see you dominate. You're a first-round pick, so act like it. Go dominate somebody. Go beat somebody's ass. I don't see that shit on a regular basis. And you know, to take it a step further, you know where the Redskins are currently rated right now in the league, stopping the run? If this defensive line is so damn good, all right? You know where the Redskins are? 31st in the goddamn league stopping the run. So don't tell me that we talented on goddamn defense on the defensive line. Some of that shit has to do with the linebackers too. All right, we need help there as well. Yeah, John Bostic got a pick. John Bostic has been on 19 NFL rosters for a reason. He's our new Mason Foster. I already said that. He's a little bit faster, a little bit more instinctual, but the same goddamn player as Mason Foster. All right? It's not good enough. They don't shoot gaps. I'm watching guys shoot gaps, make plays. I'm watching Matt Milano of the Buffalo Bills and Tremaine Edmonds, a guy that we could have had instead of Daron Payne, and I'm never going to come off of that damn hill. I will die on that hill. Tremaine Edmonds could have been knifing in the backfields for us right now, making plays. Instead, we got Cole Holcomb, and I love Cole Holcomb. Bless his heart. But there was a reason Cole Holcomb was available in the 5th round. He's solid. I don't think he's a game changer. I think he's a solid NFL linebacker, and he may grow to be better. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like we have game changers. I watched San Francisco 49ers linebacker Fred Warner go all over the field. He's everywhere. Backfield, sideline. You can't get away from this guy. I'm watching the Carolina Panthers, and Shaq Thompson is everywhere. We just don't have that. We don't. This is what I'm talking about. These are the things that we're missing. We don't have them. I went back and watched the game. Maybe I was too critical. No, I wasn't. We don't have all of the ingredients necessary to be good. And this is the same defense that a lot of you, I was not subscribing to this. I said, I'm going to take a wait and see approach because I still don't think we have an elite pass rusher. Those were my exact words. A lot of you, we could have a top 5. You skip 10. And I tell you all the time, you can't skip steps. You cannot do it. Don't skip steps. Don't talk about top 5. How about you go to top 10 first? How about, hell, damn that. How about you go top half of the league, top 16 defense first? Everybody wants to skip steps. We could be a top 10 defense. We could be a top 5 defense. How about we just be top 16? How about we do that? How about we not be bottom third of the league? All right? First, before we start talking about top 10 and top 5 and all of that good stuff. So we got a long way to go before we get there, though. I mean, seriously, there aren't many pieces that I feel like are worthy of starting moving forward. And they're starting to try things. I don't know if you were aware of this, but at the end of the game, I damn sure wasn't. I didn't realize that they had taken every single corner that started the game out of the game and put in all young boys and just let them play the last 3 possessions of the game. I had no clue. As if it really even mattered at that point of the game, but it was done. They're trying to see who belongs and who doesn't. And I can respect that. You know, Jerron Christian, I don't know if you remember, and I thought it was just, and it may have been, and they may have tried to spin it as you know, they wanted to get a look at Jerron Christian at left tackle, but they took Donald Penn out after he went ballistic on the official, sat his ass down for a couple of series, and then he was back in the game, and Christian got in there. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Jerron Christian in there, seeing what he can do at left tackle, because at some point, we got to find out if this guy's a starter or if he's just a swing tackle. And if he's a swing tackle, so be it, all right? There's nothing wrong with him being our new Ty Nsekhe. I just need to know. So if I know I need to go out and draft another tackle or what the situation may be, I just need to know. At this point, we need to know what we have and what we don't have. So all of this pussyfooting around what guys can and can't do, let's find out, all right? Let's be really blunt. A wise woman once said to me, the best person to be is Frank Blunt. But that's because you're frank and you're blunt, straight to the point. So it's time to be Frank Blunt the rest of the season. I'm not here to stroke anybody's ego. I'm not here to make friends in the comment section because you think we have talent. If you do, bless your heart. You're probably a really nice guy or female. All right? But at the end of the day, when you're 1-9 and shit looks as bleak as it looks right now, and there really doesn't seem like there's an end in sight, then it's time to be really frank and blunt. So that's where I am with mine right now. And I went back and watched the game. And as I mentioned, first of all, let me say this because I always forget to do this and I always mean to do this. Our best player on our team is Tress Way. I don't know if you know this or not, but just in case you forgot, let me remind you because I don't do this enough. Tress Way, when he got hurt, I got down on one knee and I almost said a prayer. I said, no, not Tress. Not our best. Please, no. What are we going to do? The one guy that shows up every week. Can't happen. And when they came back from commercial and he was on the sideline chumming it up and walking around, I said, thank you. Don't do us like this, okay? God forbid the one guy that we can rely on week in and week out to do his job and do it at a high enough level that gives us a shot gets hurt. I don't know what we would do. Because you know we're going to punt at least 7 times in the damn game. Got to have Tress out there. All right? Say what you want. Tress is the best we got. All right? So you start there when you talk about building this roster. You start with Tress Way. All right? And I'm dead ass serious. You probably think I'm bullshitting right now. I'm not joking. I'm dead ass right now. Tress Way. You start with Tress Way and then you start building this roster. All right? Nick Sundberg is fine as a long snapper. All right? So you just keep building the roster from there, and you get to the offense, and you start figuring out what guys belong. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's probably a good 7 or 8 guys that I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that dude being on the roster moving forward, and not necessarily just being a starter, you know, being a guy that I feel like we can count on week in, week out. So you get to the defense, and it's a lot less guys that I feel good about. I think we're closer, much closer offensively than we are defensively. And that's a problem because remember, coming into the season, it was the inverse. Oh, we got a long way to go offensively, which we do. Trust me, we just scored our first 2 touchdowns in damn near 4 games. So I get it. The offense is a far long ways away as well. However, they have reasons. They have excuses. The defense doesn't, okay? The defense, we spent a lot of resources, all right? We haven't spent a ton of first-round picks and draft capital early in the draft on the offense. You look at that offense, and it's patchwork. It's 3rd round. It's 5th round. It's 6th round. It's, Chase Roulier is a 5th, 6th rounder. You know what I mean? Morgan Moses is a 3rd rounder. Like, there aren't a bunch of blue chipper first-round picks on the offense, all right? Look around. It's Dwayne Haskins as a first-round pick and Darius Geis as a 2nd-round pick. Outside of that, Kelvin Harmon is a 6th-round pick. I mean, you look around that offensive unit, and there's not a lot of first-round picks. Eric Flowers is a first-round pick. But it's not many of those guys on offense. So you expect less of those guys. You get to the defense, and it's a bunch of first-round picks. It's a bunch of quote-unquote blue chippers. And yet, guys that were drafted in much later rounds are the ones performing at a higher clip than any of those guys. There's a bunch of first-round picks littered all around that defense, and they're just not performing. They're not. And so it's a lot of work that needs to be done on that side of the ball. And I went back, as I mentioned, and watched, and it's disappointing. It's disheartening because we don't do a good job stopping the run consistently for 4 quarters. We may have a little stretch here, a little stretch there where we stop the run, and but eventually that dam breaks. Every single game, no game is different. Every game's the same, And I'm just perplexed as to why we can't stop the run consistently. I don't understand that. I don't. I don't understand, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's a lot less 3-4 and a lot more 4-3 going on, or I should say nickel. A lot more 4-2 personnel. Two linebackers, 4 defensive linemen, and 5 defensive backs. There's a lot of that going on right now. That doesn't help us stop the run either. But they always claim they want to get their best players on the field. Well, if that's the case, then we should be in our base a lot more often, but I obviously what the offense is doing dictates what personnel you put on the field defensively. It is what it is at this point. I've been off of the 5 Greg Minuski train because it's not going to happen. You just got to wait till the end of the season for that to take place. And definitely getting better coaches would improve what we see in terms of a product on the field. But let's not kid ourselves, all right? As I mentioned yesterday, these coverages, like I'll give you an example. I was watching the Titans and the Chiefs game from last week, and they were doing a breakdown of the final possession where the Titans were able to go score the game-winning touchdown. And, everyone's killing Kansas City's defense, and they're killing, the defensive coordinators. Last year it was Bob Sutton, and he had been there for a long time, and he had stunk it up, and everybody wanted change. They go out, they get Spagnuolo from the Giants and of Giants fame, Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator, gets the job as the Rams head coach. It doesn't work, comes back to New York. And so they go and they get him as their defensive coordinator. And they're like, man, we expect Steve to come in here and change some things and make this defense better. And everybody's killing the Chiefs because their defense stinks again. And you see at the end of the game that they're in a simple, basic coverage, okay? It's man 2, all right? For those of you that don't understand what that is, it's simple. Man across the board with 2 high safeties, okay? They're splitting the field in half, so they both have a deep half of the field. In that particular coverage, if you're playing inside, you cannot allow an in-breaking route. Really, anybody on the field, do not allow an in-breaking route to beat you because you don't have any help to the inside. Those safeties are splitting outward. So they can cover anything breaking outward, but they can't help you on a post. They can't help you on a slant, okay? They run a corner route, they run a bench route, that safety will be there to help you. So you can play with inside leverage, okay? Because you don't want to give up anything inside. So you will allow them to break outside because you have help. Simple coverage. man to man, know where your help is, and play accordingly. They still, both guys on both sides, got beat to the inside. Ryan Tannehill had his choice to go to the left or to the right to throw a touchdown pass because both guys got beat to the one place that they couldn't get beat. Is that the coach's fault or is that the player's fault? Simple call, go out and execute. Either you're good enough or you're not. That's when it's a player's thing. Same thing with us. It's really simple. It's not like we're doing these. It's not like Greg Minuski's scheme is complex. We're all complaining that it's too damn simple. It's not complex what he's asking these guys to do. All right? You know what wasn't complex? Seattle's cover 3 defense with the Legion of Boom for years. Everybody knew what they were doing. You know what wasn't complex? Tampa Bay's cover 2 scheme in Tampa when they were dominant defensively. Everyone knew what they were doing. Tampa 2. Everyone knew what Seattle was doing. Cover 3. You know what they did? They out-executed you because they executed the hell out of what they were going to do. And you know what that's called? Talent. You know what's coming and you still can't beat it because they're just better than you are. We don't have that. We don't have guys that just win one-on-one matchups, that just abuse the guy in front of them. Right now, we don't have one single guy that commands a double team up front. Ryan Kerrigan had a nice game, 2 sacks. Good for him. Good for him. You know what? I was happy to see him finally get to the damn quarterback. I really was. Since all of you out there, most of you, I can't speak for all of you, most of you wanted him on the roster. Most of you had this sentimental value. You refused to see the big picture. Oh, he's Ryan Kerrigan and he doesn't miss any games and he's such a good Redskin and he's been such a good player for such a long time. He shouldn't go anywhere. He should be here. Why? The man is not producing at a high enough level. Why? Let him go. Get something for him. No, we didn't. But I'm off topic. You know I can do that from time to time. So, I've been watching all these teams around the league, and I'm convinced now more than ever that we just don't have the talent. We just don't have the talent. But we'll come back to that. When I had a chance to go back and watch again, I'm doubling down on Kelvin Harmon. I really, as a matter of fact, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I would prefer it if Paul Richardson didn't come back the remainder of the season. I want Paul Richardson back next year. Okay, I actually think Paul Richardson is an asset. I know a lot of you don't. I know a lot of you don't care about Trey Quinn. That's fine. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I want to see more of Kelvin Harmon, though. I like Kelvin Harmon. He's a big-bodied receiver. I think he's a guy that has a place in this offense. Dwayne obviously trusts him. I like Kelvin Harmon. I want to see more of him. And the reason we got to see as much of him as we did is because there was no Paul Richardson. I'd like to see more of Kelvin Harmon. So I'm doubling down on him. You know how I feel about Terry McLaurin. Guys look good. I didn't hear anything about a setback from him, so that's good news. And, don't forget, and I think right now where I'm probably most frustrated with this football team in terms of the roster is at the tight end position. Obviously, we could use an upgrade or two along the offensive line, but I don't think the offensive line is as bad as many people make it out to be. I just think we need a tweak here, tweak there, and I think we would be fine from an offensive line standpoint. I think where my biggest frustration lies right now is the tight end position. We don't have a damn thing to offer at the tight end position. Jeremy Sprinkle is a solid third option at tight end, and that's where he was supposed to be. Keep in mind, that's where he was on the roster, as the third tight end behind Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis. That's where he belongs. He should never be your first option. He should never be your second option. God forbid he has to be your first option. That should never take place. So the fact that Jeremy Sprinkle is your primary read at the tight end position is scary even. Hale Hinches, God bless his soul, all right? God bless his heart. He tries very hard. He is not an NFL starting tight end, period, end of discussion. We don't have anything at tight end, and it's killing our offense. That and the fact that Wendell Smallwood isn't bad. So I'm not gonna kill him. But you know who will definitely help this football team in that regard too? Is another guy that I think could help us in Bryce Love. And I think Chris Thompson is done in Washington, and I'm pretty sure he'll go somewhere else and have a tremendous year where he'll be one of the best pass-catching running backs in the league. You know where would be a great place for him to go? Minnesota. They don't have a back that looks like him on their football team. They got two big physical backs, but, they feel really good about those two backs because Dalvin Cook can really catch it. But, you put him back with Kirk in an offense or even in Oakland. I think he would be a great fit in Oakland. I'm pretty sure Jay would say, hey, look, John, if you need a pass-catching back, Chris Thompson's your guy. They got one out there already in Jalen Richard, but that's no here nor there. I think we've seen the last of Chris Thompson in a Redskins uniform if he doesn't come back this season. And I thought he would have been back already from that turf toe. So I don't know if we're going to see Chris Thompson the remainder of the season or not. But we could use a dynamic playmaker there because, I watched the Cowboys game and they're throwing simple screens and guys are making plays. We threw a screen to Darius Geis. He made a play. We need more of that. We don't have enough of that where we just get a guy and say, make a play. Terry McLaurin did the same thing down the sidelines where he took the football. Give me that, man. No, seriously, give me them cookies, man. You don't know what to do with that. Yum, yum, eat them up. Yum, yum, eat them up. Give me that. Took it from him. We don't have enough dudes that are alpha males that are going out and making plays. That's what we need on the defensive side. We got some of those guys on offense. We saw Geis make a play. We saw Terry McLaurin make a play. All right? We've seen Haskins create some things. All right? We don't have enough of those alpha males on defense, though. Dudes that's just like, you know what? If I get a one-on-one matchup, I'm about to beat somebody's ass. I'm about to put somebody's dick in the dirt. We don't have enough of those dudes. We got Matt Ioannidis and Matt Ioannidis. And Matt Ioannidis and the occasional Daron Payne / Ryan Kerrigan showcase. But those are rare. You get those once every 5 or 6 weeks or so. But most of the time, if it's not Matt Ioannidis, it's nobody. We're not gonna get those kinds of plays where you just blow some shit up. Now, again, if it's 4th and 1, 4th and inches, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen will blow some shit up then. But if it's 1st and 10 and they're running right at them, nah, they don't have nothing. That's why we're the 31st ranked defense in the league in terms of stopping the run. Again, linebackers aren't doing us any favors there either. We could use a huge upgrade there, but it's another story for another day. Bottom line is, this Jets game opened my eyes to a lot of deficiencies that we have. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I had on my rose-colored Redskins burgundy and gold glasses on, and I refused to take them off because we were playing against teams that were supposed to mollywop us. But when you play against a team that's supposed to be just as bad as you, and you get your ass run out of your own building, there's definitely a pause that happens where you are appalled and you take a step back and say, damn, are we that bad? The answer is a resounding yes. My uncle texted me during the game and he said, I haven't watched one single Redskins game because he played in my football pool. And he said, and I realized on his sheet, he played 2 sheets and he picked the Redskins on both games. And I said, man, that's bold of him. Whoa, I wouldn't recommend that. Maybe split 1-on-1 because both of these teams stink and you don't know which team is going to show up. But to go Redskins on both sheets, that's saying something, man. And now I know why. He texted me and he said, man, I hadn't watched the Redskins game all season long. But I watched the Jets game, one Jets game, and they were awful. And I told myself I would never, ever pick the Jets or any of my sheets. So I picked the Redskins twice. He said, now I've watched the Redskins game. I'm never picking the Redskins. They're now the one team I will never pick. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. And that's where we are right now. Even the teams that stink are getting their rocks off against us. That's a sad state of affairs. That's where we are right now, though. And again, it'd be okay if you could assure me that change was coming at the season's end. And when I say change is coming, no, we're going to have a new head coach. We're going to have a new defensive coordinator. All of those things are coming. I'm talking about Bruce Allen's ass. If you could tell me that I'm not taking these ass whoopings in vain, that there is change coming that will positively impact this football organization moving forward, you know what? I would be able to take these a lot easier. But when you look me in my eyes, I saw Bruce. I don't know if you saw the shot of Bruce looking up at the monitor when they show Alex Smith 6-3 and the injury and what the record was. And then since Alex Smith's injury, and he looked up and he laughed and he said, see, I don't know if you saw that. I saw that shit. It made me vomit in my damn mouth. Because he's still claiming that we were goddamn close. And Bruce and Dan are still clinging to that bullshit. So that means his ass ain't going nowhere. And he had Alex Smith chumming it up right next to him in the damn press box. So you know what that shit means. You know what that shit means. I don't have to tell you. Let's get to in other news, man. So, let's start with the post-game presser, the day after presser, actually, for Bill Callahan. Not much to take away from it. He talked about some of the things that went down during the course of the game. Deron Payne was injured. I did not know. He left the field with a walking boot, or left the stadium with a walking boot. He didn't have an update for us. So hopefully Deron Payne is okay. We'll learn more about that, I'm assuming, later on in the week. I'm assuming he won't practice Wednesday. I think Thursday, as I've always said, Thursday is that day for me where if they don't practice on Thursday, there's a less and less chance and a likelihood that they're going to play. So we'll see what Deron... And normally when guys leave the stadium in a walking boot, it's usually a precautionary measure. It doesn't really mean that they're severely injured. We've seen guys be in a walking boot, and Case Keenum is the best case in point. How many times he's been in a walking boot up until Thursday, take the walking boot off, play on Sunday. So let's hope he's fine. But he talked about Dwayne and some of the good things he did, some of the things he needs to improve upon. He talked about the video that I'm going to talk about here shortly that surfaced with Dwayne talking to the offensive line. He talked about a number of different things, none of it which is that important at this point. So I think his press conferences gain more and more meaning as we get deeper and deeper into the week, as in case of who's playing, who's not playing, who practiced, who didn't practice, and some of the things that they're going to continue to work on. He did make a comment about the corners being out of the game late, and they said, look, we just wanted to take a look at some of the other guys. If that's what you're going to run with, cool. I don't know if that was punishment for all the big plays that were given up, or if they seriously wanted to take a look at some of the other guys, the younger guys, but whatever the case may be. He also talked about the Monte Nicholson situation. Remember, he was one of two guys that dropped off someone that had overdosed at the hospital. And so that was a situation that was a little touchy there. And we didn't know if Monte would play, even if he was healthy enough, because remember, he hadn't been healthy enough to play the last couple of weeks. Well, he did play in the game, did not play very well, I may add. And I vented about that yesterday. But and the bad part about Monte is I know Monte is better than that. You know, that's the frustrating part. He's got way too much talent to be playing that way. It just frustrates me because we've seen what good Monte looks like. All right. So he's just got to play better, you know. But in terms of the video, though, you know, the Dwayne Haskins clip, let me start first by saying this. I'm disappointed that even got out. You know, how often is it that we see these types of meetings on the sideline, yet we never have this shit actually be viral? I mean, this thing has already had over 2 million views. Like, that's the type of shit I'm talking about. Like, how often is it that Bill Belichick's little powwows that he has with his defense, how often is it that ends up on the internet, that ends up on Twitter or IG? It doesn't happen. And you know, it'd be one thing if that was like Redskins, that was like the Redskins station or whatever, you know what I mean? You know, NBC Washington or whatever that was doing that. But that was like somebody on the sidelines with their little cell phone recording it and then posting it. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Like, why is that okay in our organization? The shit that's said on the sidelines, unless somebody's mic'd up professionally, stays on the sidelines. I got a problem with that. That's one of the reasons that we aren't a good organization. Shit that's supposed to stay in-house doesn't. That being said, I had no problems with that whole exchange. None. I thought the offensive linemen, everybody was like, oh, they weren't listening to Dwayne. The score at that point was like 34-3. They were at that moment, they were probably checked out. And Dwayne's like, man, I almost got my legs snapped in half. What do I got to do to make sure that shit doesn't happen again? All right? What do I have to do to make sure that I don't leave this game on a stretcher? or on a cart. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was him showing leadership. Like, this shit ain't good enough. And Morgan Moses told him, look, man, they coming with 6 and 7 dudes. We in 5-man protections. It ain't shit we can do about that. It's going to be free hitters. Now, that wasn't always the case, though. You know? Like, how many times are they going to blitz? And this is one of the things that Callahan said today at his day after presser that I thought was spot on. The Jets weren't doing anything that damn complex. All right? Jamal Adams, I mean, man, were they dick riding Jamal Adams during the game? He's a good safety. Don't get me wrong. He's a hell of a safety. But we made him look like an all-pro. And maybe he is a damn all-pro. He's a damn good safety. But the shit he was doing wasn't all that complex. We just weren't blocking him well. You know, we would run his ass all the way around the loop, all the way around the damn track. Dwayne would roll out and he would get another damn sack. The reason he would have to roll out is because we were getting damn pressure up the middle and Dwayne felt like he had to vacate the pocket. We just weren't doing a good enough job of blocking shit up. There was one blitz where the man just came scot-free up the A-gap. I'm like, hello, anybody home? Seriously. 2 guys blocking one, and this man comes scot-free up the A-gap. Can somebody answer me as to why this is taking place? I just need answers. That wasn't 7 guys coming. That was 5 on 5. 5 to pick up 5, and you blew it. I just need to know. Now, was that Dwayne's fault? Did Dwayne not set the protection properly? That's possible. But my thing is, I had no problems whatsoever with that video. I had no problems with the reaction of anybody during the video. And I hate the fact that video even surfaced. Because we see these happen all the time. We watch games and we see these powwows take place. We aren't supposed to know what was said. We just are supposed to know. We were just supposed to be able to say, look at Dwayne Haskins being a leader. Look at him getting in their ass on the sidelines. And that was supposed to be it. And it was supposed to be dead. And we were supposed to move on. We weren't supposed to know exactly what was being said. But we the Redskins, and that kind of shit gets out. Pisses me off, to be honest with you. But anyway, let me I wanted to take a time to make some social media maneuvers real quick. And what I want to do is I want to get to the comment section of the video yesterday because I felt like there were a lot of interesting comments made on the video yesterday that we had, and I want to read some of the comments. So I want to read the ones that stuck out to me. So I'm going to skim through a couple of them and read them. My man Protect Sports says, bro, Louie, to be honest, the Bama boys, Monte, and others are lacking effort. I never really feel like Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne lack effort. Remember, Daron Payne was the same guy that chased down Stephon Diggs 50 yards down the field to help force a fumble. Like, I never feel like they're lacking in effort. I never question those guys' effort. I just question their ability to be dominant. That's what I question. I never, ever question their effort because to me, they're always giving maximum effort. He says, I like Cole Holcomb, Dunbar, Landon Collins, and a couple others. We need a lot more speed and talent on D, bro. I agree. He said, let's keep going. Antoine Aziz says, Derwin James, that the pick that should have been. I will die on that hill that we either should have taken Derwin James or Tremaine Edmonds. I would have preferred Tremaine Edmonds, but I was perfectly fine with Derwin James as well. We elected to go Daron Payne, and you've heard me bitch about that already, so I'm not going to continue to go down that path. But you're going to continue to hear me bitch about that, just like I bitch about Kirk Cousins still should be here. And speaking of which, found a really funny comment here from my man Fishlap33 that said, watch the end of the Vikes game, and that Cousins guy looks pretty good. Imagine if we could have players like that. Let me drop this nugget on y'all. Y'all probably don't give a shit, but I'm gonna drop it on you anyway. Up until yesterday, teams that trailed at halftime were 0-99. Teams that trailed at halftime by 20 points or more, 0-99. Okay, that means you're not coming back from a 20-point or more deficit at halftime. And the first quarterback in NFL history to lead his team back from a 20-point deficit was, oh my God, Kirk Cousins. Who would have guessed? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, let's go through some more comments, man. I found this one pretty interesting here. So, Mr. DCB 215 says, we have some talent. We thought as an organization, Kirk Cousins, Preston Smith, Jamison Crowder were all average. Justifiably so. In our organization, everyone looks average until you see them in a competent organization. We've had QB trouble the whole year while Cousins balls. We've had coaching trouble all year when our former assistants are thriving at their new franchises. Our best player of the last decade wants nothing to do with the organization. There's a top-down issue. I don't care how good the grass seed is. If it's not properly watered, given sunlight, and cared for, it will not grow. I couldn't agree with you more. And so the whole notion of we don't have talent, maybe the talent is a lot better if we have better coaches in here. I totally agree with that. He's absolutely right in that analogy of it doesn't matter how good your grass seed is. If you don't water it, if you don't have good soil, if you don't nurture that grass seed and you don't do the things necessary to cultivate growth, it's not going to grow. And so that's a great analogy. And that's where this organization is. And so I want to, and I responded to that comment, by the way. And my response to that comment was I liked and wanted to keep all three of those players, being Kirk Cousins, Preston Smith, and Jamison Crowder. I said Preston had 8.5 sacks in his rookie season and then spent the next 3 years coming close. Remember that PFF stat, and I'm not a pro football focused guy, but remember that stat that said Preston Smith had the highest pressure rate in the NFL? That wasn't a joke. A lot of y'all thought that was a practical joke. Like, oh man, Preston Smith was close a lot. He just didn't get the sacks. Some of that, whose the fault that was? Some of that was the fault of those two Bama guys inside and Ioannidis and those guys not pushing the pocket, not forcing the quarterback to be able, not allowing the quarterback to have to stay back or have to fall backwards. But instead, being able to step up in the pocket. And so Preston just being that close but missing because the quarterback is able to manipulate the pocket and step up. Well, guess what in Green Bay isn't happening? They aren't allowed to step up because Kenny Clark and some of those other guys are collapsing that damn pocket. And so it's not just Preston Smith. It's the other Smith too, Zadarius. Both of them are benefiting from guys that are collapsing the pocket and allowing them to run that track and that arc and the quarterback can't step up. And so now those close near misses are turning into sacks. I also said, but at least he got pressure. Just like Kirk, I felt like the best was yet to come. Of the three, Crowder was the one I was most comfortable with leaving. Another one of our issues, inability to retain talent. Our organization does not highlight talent, but we have over-exaggerated the amount of talent on this team for too long. I'm done going along with the narrative, which is what I've said over the last 2 days. Let's see. There was a couple more that I wanted to bring up. Here's one that I wanted to read from Robert B. He says, I disagree. I think our D-line does have talent. It's a coaching scheme issue. I also think most of the players have checked out for the season already. Put this D-line in a quality organization and they will be elite. Heck, just look at some of the players we've let go. Preston Smith is a prime example. It's not a talent issue. I mean, if they aren't talented, then where do you get the talent? John Allen was considered a blue chip talent in the draft. Payne was considered a first-round talent and much better than Villa. Amari Cooper has been highly rated in the draft but looked mediocre with the Raiders. Now that he's with the Cowboys, he's playing at a high level. Quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing we have no talent excuse. Quit hiring dumpster fire defensive coordinators would be a good start. So let me pick apart this assessment. And I think this is an excellent comment, first and foremost, and I thank you for it, Robert B. But let me say this. Let me pick apart this thing one by one. First of all, yes, there is a coaching scheme issue deficiency here in Washington. I do agree with that. But as I mentioned before, what's wrong with you just being lined up in front of the man in front of you, one-on-one, and just beating his ass? You think for 1 second, if these guys were elite talents, that you could line them up one-on-one on a consistent basis and them not get pressure, them not bulldoze a guard every now and again, them not slap down the hands of a guard, beat them inside, and draw. We don't even draw holding penalties. At least the good guys affect the game that way where, shit, if I'm not going to get to the quarterback, you're going to get a holding penalty or two throughout the course of the game. We don't even draw those. All right? Matt Ioannidis draws those. He drew one yesterday. All right? But Daron Payne and Allen aren't drawing those. Why not? Why aren't they at minimum at least drawing a holding penalty? If you're one-on-one and you're going up against a guy and you don't beat his ass, then what does that say about you? That's not a scheme thing. That's just you're not good enough to beat the guy in front of you one-on-one. That's the problem I have. Is that on 3rd and 7 when you know they're passing, they're not doing anything elaborate. 5 guys blocking 4 guys. Somebody's going to get double teamed. Everybody's not getting double teamed. There are 3 guys that are going to have probably one-on-one matchups, and we're not winning. We're not winning one-on-one matchups enough. That's a problem for me. And that's a sign of lack of talent. Because elite players, you give them enough opportunities to rush one-on-one, they're going to win their fair share of those battles. Trust and believe. If you're not watching enough football around the league, then you'll think that we have talent. But when you go watch other players annihilate guys one-on-one, then you'll understand that we don't have that. That's not what's here. As we continue on, the Preston Smith example, that's great. But as I mentioned, Preston Smith, it's not necessarily a scheme issue as much as it is the guys around him are really good, and it's helping highlight what he's doing. Instead of that quarterback being able to take a full step or two up into the pocket and just avoid Preston Smith, who beat the tackle around the edge, he now can't do that. Now Preston Smith is able to get to the damn quarterback. That helps a lot. Preston Smith already has a career high. He's already got double-digit sacks on the season. He never hit double-digit sacks here. Why? Because we weren't getting the same penetration up the middle. We weren't collapsing the pocket up the middle. It's not a coincidence. That speaks about what we have here, or lack thereof. Let's continue on, though. You talk about the draft. John Allen was a blue chipper. Daron Payne was considered a first-round talent. Sure they were. But I mentioned this, and not necessarily with John Allen as much as Daron Payne. I mentioned this. When we drafted Daron Payne, he's not getting pressure on the quarterback. He didn't get pressure at Alabama. And everybody tried to say, well, it was a scheme thing. It was a 2-gap system at Alabama. Okay, fine. I'll grant you that. Let's see you do it now. Let's see you beat some ass. Let's see you whoop some ass and take some names at the next level and get pressure on the quarterback. How many sacks he got this year? I'm just asking for a friend. Because last year, I think he had 4.5 sacks, something like that, 6.5. I don't know how many he had last year. I know Matt Ioannidis was leading the team in sacks with 4.5, just in case y'all were keeping count at home. So if he's got 4.5 and he's got the most, where does that leave everybody else at? Ryan Kerrigan had 2 sacks yesterday. He doubled his input from the season. He had 1 sack going into the game. No, that means he tripled it. He went from 1 to 3 in 1 game. That's how bad he's been this season. Anyway, he talks about Amari Cooper, highly rated in the draft. Let me stop you right there. Amari Cooper was mediocre in Oakland with John Gruden, okay? Amari Cooper had already had a 1,400-yard season under his belt in Oakland, all right? Amari Cooper has already shown us that he has the ability to be a true number 1 wide receiver in this league when given opportunities. John Gruden simply did not know what to do with him. He did not know how to use him. Derek Carr already had a MVP-like season back in 2016 before he broke his leg late in that season. And Amari Cooper was spearheading that season. When Jack Del Rio was in Oakland, Amari Cooper was balling. So we've seen it from Amari Cooper. So let's not act like Amari Cooper hasn't had those seasons in Oakland that have already shown us that he had this ability. Now, with John Gruden there, they didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know how to get him the football. And then he goes to Dallas, and they're force-feeding him the rock. Like they did early in his career. So I didn't like that one. That one was wrong, okay? But you're right when you ended saying, quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing we have the no talent excuse. We have talent. It's just not an abundance of talent. And it's being over-exaggerated, all right? And so we do have talent. There's talent on this team, but it's being over-exaggerated. But then quit hiring dumpster-fire defensive coordinators would be a good start. You're right about that, too. You're not wrong. You're not wrong there. But I just thought that was an interesting comment as well. But in any event, somebody else said, Igby Price said, Payne had 5 tackles, and I do remember a hit on the sidelines that stopped a big run. You know what? I listened to a podcast, the Redskins Talk podcast with JP Finley. And they have something that they call Redskins Park Syndrome or something to that effect. It's something along those lines where it's this syndrome that you have because you see the Redskins and you're so ingrained in what's going on that you start to think that normalcy is okay. Like you below average to average play is great. So you're falling into that trap because I can tell that you probably don't watch other teams. Because if you're going to sit here and tell me that that Daron Payne had 5 tackles and he hit somebody on the sidelines and you're using that as justification for him having a good game, then you absolutely are missing the point. You don't get it. You have to impact the game. I'd rather you have 0 tackles, but you're blowing shit up. Did you see Clowney on Monday Night Football versus the 49ers a couple weeks back? Monday Night Football? Jadeveon Clowney has never had more than 9.5 sacks in any given season in his career. Yet I wanted him. And I told anybody that would listen, you don't watch Clowney for the numbers. You watch him for the impact on the game. All right? You watch that 49ers performance and you can't tell me that Jadeveon Clowney isn't one of the best 7 defensive players in this league. Forget about the sack numbers. I don't know how many sacks and how many tackles he had in that game. I just know he was wrecking shop. They couldn't block him. And even if he didn't make the tackle, he blew shit up so somebody else did for a 3-yard loss. Where's that at? Where is that at? That's what I'm looking for. We draft you 13th overall. I'm not looking for 5 tackles. I don't want 5 tackles and knocking somebody out of bounds. That shit ain't good enough. That's not what the 13th overall pick in the draft does. He blows shit up. We don't have guys that blow shit up. We have guys that just go along to get along. That's why we're the 31st ranked rush defense in the league and can't get off the field on 3rd down. So 5 tackles and knocking a guy out of bounds, if that sounds like good enough for you, that's why we're 1-9. That's why we 1-9. You sound like you should be with Bruce Allen talking about we close. And on that note, let me get the hell out of here, man. Thank y'all for joining me on the Redskins Nightly News. A lot more where that came from. All right. But now we turn our attention to the Detroit Lions. And we'll talk more about this game, put a bow on it, start to move forward. I'll read some more of your comments. We'll start to do this a little bit more often. Want to get you guys involved a little bit more. So I'll be scouring the comment section. I told you I read everything you guys post. And so I'll be scouring the comment sections to find some pertinent comments. We'll read them on air and we'll discuss them too. So we'll start adding that into the show, integrating that as we move forward. 1-9, not very good. Not very good, as a wise man once said to me. But in any event, we got skin in the game. Why? Because we're Skins fans. For life. I'm your man, Louie T. Signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage. It could be. Until next time, this has been the Redskins Nightly News. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.